and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. Who do we have here today?
Hi, it's me, Shelby, coming back on again to be able to talk about this new book that we're reading. It's not really new, but like new to us.
Right? It's new to the podcast. We haven't read it before. It would be kind of weird if I did a book I already did on a podcast again, but better.
Like a rejudgment. Or you could, if it's like as lore heavy as this one, you like do it once for your initial review and then maybe a second one later for all the things that you might have missed or picked up on.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to read this book again.
No. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. So what book did you bring for us to talk about today, and why did you bring this book?
So I brought The Priory of the Orange Tree. That Samantha Shannon. So I brought this because it was all over my book talk for a really long time, and everyone just said it was like really, really good. Really, I've been trying to challenge myself to read more outside of Sarah J. Maas. So I was kind of just hoping to expand my horizons. I'm not super adept with like high fantasy, which is what this is. So I was like, why not challenge myself? This one dense and lore, let me tell you.
We'll definitely be talking about it a lot. So we're going to play a little game.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to summarize this book in 30 seconds. Try your best, and you may begin whenever you're ready.
4 characters, Nicholas Ruse, Iad, Loft, and Tane, all from different corners of the earth, as they come together to try and vanquish a dragon called the Nameless One.
Perfect. Slay.
Yeah. How do you summarize in 30 seconds a book that's literally 804 pages? That is thick.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to summarize this book as best as I can, without spending like 10 minutes doing it, because again, it is a pretty dense book. Very high fantasy. Mm-hmm. So a world divided, a queendom without an heir, and an ancient enemy awakens. The House of Barathnet has ruled Innis for 1,000 years. Still unwed, Queen Sabron IX must conceive a daughter to protect her realm from destructions, but assassins are getting close to her. Iad is an outsider at court. Though she has risen to power of lady-in-waiting, she is loyal to a hidden society of mages. Iad keeps a watchful eye on Sabron, secretly protecting her with forbidden magic. Across the Dark Sea, Tane has trained to be a dragon rider since she was a child, but is forced to make a choice that can unravel her life. Meanwhile, the East and West divide, refuse to parley, and forces of chaos are rising from their sleep. We keep talking about the size of this book, and I feel like this is like the one book that people know it based on its size. You say Priory of the Orange Tree, like no one's even read it, they just know the size, and the cover is pretty iconic too. Mm-hmm. And the title itself is pretty cool. So, did you find this size intimidating? Was it very off-putting? What was your initial reaction to seeing this book?
You lift it up, and it's a minimum. Like, you try and do, like, let's say front arm raises with this book, and within seconds your arms hurt, because it's just, like, it is thick. This book is like a home security system. You just whack a intruder with it upside the head, and they're goners. When opening it, there's still, like, pretty large margins and stuff like that. I don't know if that was made for the intention of, like, annotate in the margins and stuff. The amount of writing in there isn't actually as dense as what makes it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the size it's a little bit misleading. What makes it even more intimidating than its size, though, is even just the first couple of chapters being so confused. The size wasn't what was intimidating, it was what was inside of it that was.
Yeah. I think the audiobook itself was like 26 hours, like 25, 26. Well, because it's not long at all.
Right.
Well, it's long, of course, but it's not long comparable to like the 40-hour ones that I've read in the past. But yeah, I think the margins definitely help in the font itself makes it larger. I do wonder, like, why do you think that she wanted it all in one book and not just break it up into different physical books instead of...
I wonder if it's just to encompass the setting up of the lore. So if people read just enough to get through the lore, it was enough for one book. Like, by the time that I wasn't confused any longer was probably a third of the way through before I stopped getting confused. If I finally was kind of understanding of the characters and sense of the lore, split it up into 3 separate books at that point, I don't think people would have continued reading on to the second or third book, because book 1 is just all lore. There was no action that had really happened. You were getting to know the characters. Mm-hmm. Also, too, you're getting 4 different types of perspectives in this as well. It wasn't like, let's say, The Witcher, say, you know how in the beginning we're all a little confused on what's happening because there's 4 different type of storylines going on, but then in the end it all made sense and there was like some action between. That wasn't like that in the first season of this book. So I don't think people would have read past book 1 or book 2 to get to book 3. Put it all in one book and people feel a little bit more obligated to finish it.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to do with Jadestone. I'm going to put it all in one book so that people actually read it.
Just maybe make the margins a little bit smaller too, and it's going to be the same size as this.
Yeah, I want the margins actually to be like 3 inches. So that way the book is like 8,000 pages.
Oh my god.
And there's like...
so many trees will have died for that.
No, I'll make it Kindle only. With one single book. And you have to all fight over the one book that gets printed. So what is your favorite quote from this book?
The thing is with Tana's background is she's from the East, and they revere these dragons as gods. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is, though, is that these gods aren't like the omnipotent type of
presence.
Yeah, they are of a mortal. Now they have like this extremely long lifespan that spans hundreds of maybe thousands of years, but they can die and they can be killed. And her dragon that had chosen her to be her rider was captured by essentially sea pirates, but like they were specifically known as like dragon butchers, mm-hmm. because these dragons have magical properties about them and stuff.
They would tear them apart and sell their pieces.
Mm-hmm. And her dragon had undergone some stuff where a scale was taken and a tooth was taken, and Tana wasn't going to go after her dragon because everyone was telling her that her dragon was most likely dead at this point. Once she found out that her dragon was still alive but being held captive, and then she came in possession of something that allowed her to be able to actually like save her dragon, she went to go save her dragon. Tana was haunted by some things that had happened in the past. This saving her dragon was like her redemption. And so, but she never saw herself as worthy. She's trying to talk to Tana, be like, you're supposed to talk to me as a friend, not like a god or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And Tana's like, I'm not a good person. I'm not worthy of being your friend or your equal companion, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And so the dragon is in the belly of the ship right before Tana releases her and says, you have a dragon's heart. To be akin to a dragon, you must not only have a soul of water, you must have the blood of the sea, and the sea is not always pure. It is not one thing. There is darkness in it, and danger, and cruelty. It can raise great cities with its rage. Its depths are unknowable. They do not see the touch of the sun. To be a Medushi is to not be pure, Tana. It is to be a living sea. It is why I chose you. You have a dragon's heart. That paragraph I really like, because Nameless, who is this great being, chose her at this academy at this time, seeing all the things that, like, Tana, her whole life being raised to be a dragon rider, mm-hmm. but that was not guaranteed until this dragon chose her and was like, I see you to be my rider. Felt unworthy in the entire thing. And the thing is that her dragon knows like these bad things that she has done, and her dragon still is just like, you're it. Like, I chose you, seeing these things within you, and I wanted you. Like, I just can't imagine like bond quite like that to be able to convey and just be like, there's like this powerful being choosing just a human with no magic, no nothing, and still being like, I want you. I guess it kind of reminds me, like, in a way of Fourth Wing, but even Fourth Wing has a little bit of a darker side where the dragons see them as lowly humans, and some dragons, even after being bonded with their rider for a couple of years, still don't have that great bond, whereas this, they see this dragon, who is a gentle giant, essentially, sees this human and says, I want the dark side of you and the light side of you as my companion for the rest of your life, because obviously the dragon will live thousands of years. Yeah. I thought that paragraph is just really beautiful, because there's, Tane is her absolvement, almost. It's being told you have a dragon's heart, because she even admits that there's no higher honor. That's where her strength kind of comes from in the remainder of it, because she sees herself worthy because she knows that sees her as an equal.
Tane's perception on how she approaches her dragon that way, it felt a bit putting the cart before the horse type deal, where she did some bad things, so she killed 2 people. She feels guilty about her friend. In all honesty, it was her friend's decision to help, too. So it's not all on her, but I get the blame that she puts on herself and the guilt behind it, but I guess what confuses me is, like, their whole thing is becoming warriors, and they're trained to be warriors, and she's been training her entire life to be this perfect warrior because she wants to be a dragon rider, and becoming a dragon rider is accepting the fact that you're gonna have to be a warrior. And so, when I was reading that section, it didn't really make sense to me of why she was so off-put by what happened. I get that was, like, the first time she ever killed somebody, but also, grand scheme of things, she was doing it to protect her dragon. I don't know if I've just been reading too much Fourth Wing, where, like, death is such a normal thing in a lot of Game of Thrones and stuff, but Tane's personality never really gave me the thought that she would react this way. So it felt a little, like, out of left field for her character.
Right. It threw me a little bit, too, for the same reason, and I just can't help but wonder if they were, with the way that it was described, at least, it seemed like that they more focused on warrior training against the elements than actual enemies, too. I think that anytime that someone takes a life for the first time, it is, like, a shock. Yeah. But it seemed, I can kind of see that she panicked, in a sense, because she didn't even kill Niclay's ruse in the very beginning like she was supposed to have. Mm-hmm. She did try to help him. She kind of, like, passed it on off to her friend and was like, okay, hopefully it absolves me of this and that nothing comes of this type of deal. It comes back to bite her. But, yeah, you know, she could have just as easily killed him to absolve herself. Now, I think part of the reason she didn't kill him is because Plot, yeah, plot armor. I think the plot armor to it was that in case he had the red sickness or whatever, that she wouldn't get infected by it.
Tane is a very selfish character, which it is refreshing to have a little bit different aspect on it. That's, like, one of the reasons why I like Tane, but I didn't enjoy her in the story. But I do like that kind of, like, flaw. Giving a character a flaw is always hard because it changes the perspective of the character and how important they are in the story. So having Tane be a little bit more on the selfish side. Selfishness is a broad statement within itself. There's different ways to show selfishness and stuff. And so having character development within her where she's thinking not just herself, but her dragon. And it shows that importance of, well, I want to be perfect for you. Even though she doesn't see herself as worthy anymore. It's an interesting arc to put in her story so late in the story.
I would agree. I would have thought that if you're, like, becoming a warrior, instead of just only the elements in order to be trained.
They also fought hand-in-hand combat and weapons, and she injured that one guy really bad.
There's so much lore behind it that I'm surprised that they didn't include something like that in it, because you're right, it was super late to all of a sudden be like, oh my god, I just killed someone, I'm going to be sick. Like, yeah. I can't believe I just took a life. For a warrior, when you're raised as such from, I think she said age 4 or 5, that you'd think that there would be a level of compartmentalization to it, to where they would at least have, like, from a really young age, like, molded her into that and, like, learn to, you know, when you're in battle, that you push all these things that you're feeling away. And she didn't. She went to Nameless with blood on her hands. Did you think that it was going to be easy? Like, I'm sorry, did you think you were going to walk in there, like, you knew that this was literally a fortress of hundreds of hundreds. Yeah. It's literally, they described it as a civilization on a boat.
Nameless doesn't have, at least I didn't notice there any kind of preserve of human life. There's nothing in there saying that the dragon cared about that, saw fighting and death as like a negative thing towards the gods, quotation marks, themselves, or anything like that. So I guess her reaction was very confusing to me, because I didn't really understand her perspective, other than like causing death is obviously bad, and her killing a person was a very negative on her psyche. But other than that, her being like, I'm not worthy, again, the guilt of her friend makes sense, but I just don't think there was enough of a branch for it to carry on so in depth with her character.
We just didn't get that much lore of the East. We got so much. I mean, again, 1/3 of the first third of the book was trying to get a lot of the characters set up, and 2/3 lore, right? Mm-hmm. We got like hardly any from the East, which I understand, because 3 out of the 4 characters are from the West, but 1 character's from the East. We could have gotten a little bit more insight into like at least the dragons, and why they saw them like gods, the lore behind those gods are. Do they see like worthiness or like what they value, something like that? Especially if she's training to be a dragon rider. I think every generation, has dragon riders, but this is like a special one because they have something special about her ceremony, because she was once every 50 years type of deal.
I just think that if there's a point where they are dragon riders, they're riding these dragons who are gods. First of all, why are they dragon riders? Why are they riding these dragons? Mm-hmm. Why are they gods that they're riding?
Yeah.
Could you imagine riding the Raven Queen right now? Like,
just flying on her back.
Sure, that's what I mean. So imagine, like the dragons in like Fourth Wing, they're not revered as gods. They are godlike creatures, but they're not revered as gods. Where here, they are gods, to a sense. But there's like the Nameless one, the antagonist of the story. If your entire premise of your antagonist and destroyer of your world, I feel like there should just be more information about the dragon. They give you like pieces of lore throughout the story. So, okay, she said there's 8 of them. Years she had spent praying before the statues of dragons, studying them, observing them from a distance, but she's never seen one up this close. Their size are breathtaking. It goes into details of what they look like, Japanese, Asian-inspired dragons, where they're more like serpenty, like very long. They go into details about how they're wingless and they have wings. They fly from the crowns on their heads. It goes into detail about how there's the worms and then there's the dragons, where the worms are like fire breathers and the dragons are essentially like water breathers, or like,
I think water and air or something like that.
Yeah. The comet is what created the dragons and how they come from stars and things like that. I just feel like there should a lot more detail on the dragons themselves when they're in cahoots with the dragons, like they communicate with the dragons. And it seems like here, Tane is like, you don't need to tell me this stuff about, like, this is your history. I'm not, again, worthy of knowing. And Nyamthan's like, you're my writer now. You are entitled to this knowledge of my kind. So, like, why do we not have more information about the dragons? Why are we not studying them, especially when the Nameless one is a dragon worm, whatever? We should have more information on this besides the basics. Like, I don't know. I'm just very lore and history, and I like knowing how things work, and especially in a dense novel like this, I want to know why the dragons are here, where they came from, which we do get a little bit, but I just wanted more. Like, I really like the difference between the ones that were born of starlight and the others were born from like womb of the fire or something, or the womb they call it, which is the earth. So they come from like the core of the earth, which is really cool. And to me, that's the most fascinating part of the story, and it should be the most significant. And we just don't really get much of it all.
As a person who loves dragons myself, I'm right there with you. This is a book about dragons. Yeah. Give me more dragons.
Give me 800 pages of dragons. Like,
yeah,
I need more.
Turn the characters into dragons and give me more.
Yeah.
Give me more.
And I get the dragons are not the focal point of the story. That is a big emphasis to put. Like, the dragons are not the main characters. They are very much side characters. And why would you have these looming creatures, these almighty gods, and not... I just wish maybe the religion around it, because they talk about the virtues and the 6 or 7 nights that they have, which they never really go into super detail about that. I know that there's 2 other books. There's the Day of Fallen Night, and then Among the Burning Flowers, that comes out at the end of the year. So I'm assuming there's much more development there, because those are prequels. So they go into all the details that's why the dragons like took a step back. So I have 2 quotes. This story is very much about kings and queens. We follow Sabran, who is the queen of Innis. We meet the unceasing emperor at the end of the story. The little southern boy that he is. Interesting character to introduce towards the end of the story. But he did say something that I really liked, and how he explained being a ruler. And you really see a lot of that with Sabran as she's going through everything, I will say. So Tane asks if she can be his like ambassador and go in his stead to like go talk to somebody. Doesn't matter. And he says, it would be unconventional. You're not my subject and you are in disgrace, but it seems we are destined for a change in new ways of things. Besides, I like to defy the convention now and then. No ruler made progress by playing it safe, and it keeps my officials on their toes. They never expect us to actually rule, you know. If we do, they call us mad. They raise us to be soft as silk, distract us with luxury and wealth beyond measure, so we never rock the boat that carries us. They expect us to be bored by our power, that we let them do the ruling in our stead. Behind every throne is a masked servant who seeks only to make a puppet of the one who actually sits on it. I thought that was really good, because I think that, at summarize, every single story you ever hear about anything that involves a queen or a king either. It's very apparent, and Game of Thrones is a huge thing. At some point, they are conscious of it. Like, he is very conscious of this. I think when he says, where is it? We are destined for a change in some things. I think this is a very calling in a lot of the rulers in this book, because a lot of the rulers are very different than what I expected. They're not very stereotypical, and I think that's a very interesting story to tell, if it was actually told. I feel like we definitely glazed over the rulers. I feel like we glazed over a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we definitely could have gone more in depth in. Going through this book in my mind right now, I'm like, wait, there's a lot of things we didn't talk about. Like the orange tree, the priory, the title of the book, we really didn't go into. That quote, and Sabran, for example, she is very much a puppets on thread, and Sabran was that way with the Nighthawk. The assassins come in and make Sabran have a child.
And also, too, this emperor was quite unexpected. I was expecting a lot of pushback from him because they've been so secluded from the West for so long, too, for 1,000 years. Yeah, he's extremely progressive. Having one meeting with an ambassador and being like, you know what? We can change some things. Yeah. Won't be able to guarantee that we'll be able to fill all of them, but you know what? Let's go ahead and at least, like, just... yeah, let's go ahead and bond together and take down the Nameless one. And they don't hate the West. They just keep them away because of the red sickness. Whereas the West hates the East because they ride dragons. And they associate all dragons to be the same, like worms. Which worms are the bad guys. And so they just assume anything that's worm-like are worms. Yeah. So I agree with wishing that they had more about their rulings, how their courts actually work.
And then the fact that he didn't even ask for Sabran's hand in the marriage. Is her hand available? And Loth is like, no. And he was like, okay.
She's a widow. She's not really open for marriage.
The Emperor's like, is she, in love with somebody else? And Loth is like, well, I can't tell you that. And he was like, yeah, I figured. But I really thought that the Emperor was going to be gay as well. I thought the Emperor was going to have a side lover, and so he was like, well, I don't want to get married right now because I want to be with my lover.
Maybe even suggesting, like, married out of, like, convenience, because I also have someone I want to be with.
The beard situation.
Mentioned a past lover, too, and I was like, he just said...
yeah, a woman.
Yeah, the Sea Maiden. I have a feeling the Golden Empress.
Okay, me too. That's what I thought.
Yeah, because she sounded just as vengeful, and she said that she would destroy everything and pirate Golden Empress...
or was it Nyamthan?
Nyamthan is a dragon. I'm sorry.
I know what I said.
Oh my god, him and a dragon. What is your other quote?
I'm glad you asked. This is about Kit and Loth. Kit does die. Rip Kit. Honestly, I forgot about him.
I think about him often.
And Kit is like, oh, Sabran's gonna get married. You're gonna get jealous. And Lost like that. It's not that way with us. Like we're friends. We would never be that. They're just talking about politics within the kingdom, And Kit says, "What I know is less important than what the world sees. Allow me to indulge in allegory. Art. Art is not one great act of creation, but many small ones. When you read one of my poems, you fail to see the weeks of careful work it took me to build it. The thinking, the scratched out words, the pages I burned in disgust. All you see, in the end, is what I want you to see. Such is politics. Any kind of history, we see what they want us to see. Having a story that is so reliant on history, that changes so much, because we hear Priory's perspective, we hear the West perspective, we hear the East perspective, we hear the witch's perspective, and it's all different, because people are manipulating things the way they want it to be seen. For all we know, the Nameless one could have a name. We don't, who knows? He could be a good guy. Maybe he just wants to Thanos this and make a better world. We don't know, because history has told us one certain way, one certain thing. I think it's a very interesting quote to have so early on. This is within the first 50 pages of the book. And having something like this that's a little bit hidden, I think it's a great telling of the rest of the story. It puts the rest of the story in a good perspective of, like, there is so much that we don't know. Within the light of day, within seeing it, it all changes within that perspective. So, like, as the light changes, the story changes. Especially coming from, like, different points of views, it always changes the story within it.
That's great foreshadowing. I didn't even pick up on it. You know, lore actually is this, and then that lore opened up once we got more perspectives of it, and it changed so many different times. Lore was like one way, and they were like, "Oh, this is how it happened." And they were like, "Oh, yeah, that's how that happened," but there was also this behind it. Like, we got so many different versions of it that at the end it was like, "Holy cow, it's a whole web."
Big one was like Sabran, because Sabran's her storyline plotline is that she's the Queen of Innis. Her bloodline foretell that she's gonna have one daughter to carry on the bloodline, because her blood is like a link or a cage for the Nameless one, which keeps him under this abyss, which is his ocean. And you find out later that that's a complete lie. It has nothing to do with her. So her whole story arc is her finding out that she's pushed and pushed and pushed to have a child, continue the bloodline. She gets married, falls in love with this man, gets pregnant, and loses everything, just to find out that none of it was warranted. She didn't need to do any of it because she didn't even want to have a kid. She didn't want to have a child.
She didn't want to get married.
Yeah, but she had to for her country, as is the law of royalty. And find out none of it mattered, because none of it was true, because of the lore that they were told. They were manipulated this way.
Not only that was the lore of the land, but the initial reason that lore was started was because the king, who the first Barathnet, who started that Galantine. Gavantin. Galantine Barathnet, whatever his name is, was so ashamed of, you know, his bloodline, but wanted his legacy to live on, that he started that rumor, essentially, because he slept with someone who tricked him, and she turned herself into the woman he was obsessed with. And so they had a child together, but he was so embarrassed because that same woman was, like, essentially raised him, but she was, like, immortal. So
it was a weird situation.
It was a very weird situation. Yeah, she was like, "I've loved you since you were him since he was a babe," and he was like, I was breastfeeding. Breastfeeding him. And I was like, ew. I really do appreciate, too, just a little side note, the fact that this is the first high fantasy. The characters pointed out, it's like, that's like incest. That's disgusting. She was told to do that because that was the lore that was their religion.
Yeah.
Just to find out that lore was just to secure the bloodline. Maybe if he just accepted the first no from this woman to begin with.
So what are some things that you liked about this book?
I'm a sucker for a person who always appreciate the intertwining storylines, how they overlap. I really did like that. I loved trying to figure out, like, how do these worlds collide in so unnoticeable and seeming ways that do have bigger effects on them long term. I loved that, and I love seeing them all kind of come together. 1,000 years in the works. And it all comes together. And the timeline on this is a little weird. I don't know how long. Maybe because Sabran lost the baby, she was showing. So usually people show after first pregnancy between 3 to 6 months ish. I would say at least a year from there, and then they were like, oh, spring, and it was in winter, so that's got to be at least maybe like another 4 or 5 months from there. I do wish that they explored a little bit more on Tane and her bloodline a little bit more, because they just kind of chopped it up to, oh, she was an orphan at, age like 4 or 5, so they took her in. So we don't know what her bloodline is. And I feel like that's such a prominent bloodline that they would have kept better record, because she was one who had a jewel sewn into her side. But I like that we're exploring not just like a corner of the earth. It's like literally their whole world that we're exploring and getting to understand a little bit better. I wish they would have expanded just a little bit on that, a little bit of clarification. Everyone is aware of who the Nameless one is. So I really like that we're seeing what their universe is. I love a good POV too. I didn't think we needed Niclay's ruse as much as we did. I didn't like him that much. I was like, I think we could have done with a little less of everything that he went through. Love seeing so many different POVs, even if it was from like the same couple of people. I love that. It's nice being able to get outside the head of one other person and you get to explore the different characters. You don't like all the characters, and that's kind of the whole point, and I like being able to still see what their view is.
I've said on like every single podcast I've ever done on this thing that I love a POV. It should be like the number one way to tell a story. If you're writing a story and you don't know where else to go, just start a POV. You can start a POV whenever. You don't have to do it at the beginning. The multiple different points of views. I also love when they all come together, like a river to a sea. I love it. I like that they all met each other individually, too. Tane met Iad. Loth met Tane.
Yeah.
I do like that everyone met each other individually and they all came together at the end. Mm-hmm. Was it a little on the nose with, like, Niclay's coming in the rowboat? Yeah, but it's fine. I like the characters and lore, world building lore. As long as I have history, you give me some sort of world building and like magic stuff like that. Plot, I could give or take. Like if you give me something interesting to pay attention to, I don't really care what the plot is. I'm just along for the ride. I'll listen to whatever you guys say. But characters are the biggest thing for me. Give me a flat character that has like no flaws, no ambitions, no anything, then I'm not interested in it. But I like that every character felt different. They all had their reasonings, their flaws, their ambitions, their dreams. Like, everyone felt different. They were easy to follow. I knew that from just the direction of the writing, I knew who I was with at what time. I knew who was more direct. I knew the difference between not only the main characters, but the side characters felt different too. Obviously, there's some that are very much the same. Like, the ladies in waitings were all, like, the same, because they all had to be the same. But I like that we had, like, Margaret and Clay's friend, Adelina, or Janart's wife.
Yeah.
Because there's so many characters in this book.
It was enough to lose track of regularly.
As characters start to kind of dwindle out of importance, you start to see only on certain ones that matter. And you get to see different branches. You get the pirates, you get the court, you get the Priory, you get all these different people, and they're all coming with different backgrounds. The world building, of course, the lands and the history with that. We could always use more. We could always use more. I loved the amount of female connection and then the male supporting characters.
Yes, the book was talking about the Orange Priory. It's essentially like a secret society of women. It was very female forward, female led,
yeah.
Strong female characters, and I like the fact that they have the woman as like deity, like the damsel, to find out she wasn't a damsel. Still, love a good female led book.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not just strong. They're strong, but like, you see them for their, like, diversity, their faults. You see them for, like, being actual, like, humans. It's cool.
And they called it literally a queendom. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to start calling that in Jadestone. I really enjoyed the women supporting women, and then just women, period. So there was 2 love stories in this. It was not a romance book at all, but there's 2 love stories in this, and they were both gay. We have Sabran and Iad, who were in a relationship together. We talked about it, but it wasn't, like, extremely highlighted. Things weren't hanging off of it and things like that. So it was very much like, we're together, let's move on and get things done. And then we have Niclay's Janart. It was very Achilles and Patroclus vibes, which is another book we did on the podcast, The Song of Achilles. Check that out. I enjoyed that there wasn't a huge focal point on a relationship. Even with Sabran needing to carry the lineage, the relationship that she had with her late husband wasn't a huge huge focus.
Everything that Nicolaes did was because of Janart, to continue before his love for Janart, and like, because he would even say like Janart would be ashamed. I think that was a large focal point for Nicolaes. They didn't even see each other in that way in that beginning either. And so, like, it came out of, like, a mutual respect because Sabran was very naive to, like, the ways of the world. She had a duty, and it was to uphold the lore. Iad would, like, kind of challenge her way of thinking, and, like, Sabran respected her for it, and then...
Not at first.
No. That, like, after her unborn child and husband died, Sabran looked to Iad and give me your honest opinion. I'm kind of tired of everyone sucking up to me right now for being queen. Like, I need someone who's going to be real, and there was that respect out of it. When I texted you initially, I was like, they're in love? Yeah. And you were like, you didn't know this was sapphic? I had no idea. Two other main characters, Tane and Loth. Loth even says multiple times, he's like, this makes me glad that I've never been in love. It was kind of cool seeing characters who were main characters who weren't focused on finding a partner, a companion, a fated mate. Tane was driven for her love for her dragon, and Loth is just doing it out of duty for the love of his queendom, yes, and his queen, who is his best friend. I really love the fact that they kept reiterating, we're not like that. We don't like each other like that.
I do like that.
Nope.
He stopped it. And I know a lot of it was respect for her. I could see Loth ending up with Iad if she wasn't with Sabran. Mm-hmm. And I think that would have been a great match. I think they would have been really well together, but obviously Sabran's better. And then, Tane, I feel like probably like an ace character. Like, had no reaction to anybody.
And with the way that Kit was willing to follow...
I really thought Loth and Kit were going to get together.
They should have. In my opinion, like, they just should have. Because there was at one point in time, Kit said in the beginning of he was, like, calling his friend, but he was like, wherever you go, I will surely follow, or something like that. I was like, I'm sorry. What?
It's giving Sam and Frodo vibes, who also should have been in a relationship, but whatever.
They were roommates.
So now on the flip side, what are some things that you didn't like?
I didn't like the ending. The action that happened was probably not even 50 pages. Out of 100 pages, the actual action of the book, that, like, the climax of the book wasn't even, like, 50.
Are you talking about the Nameless one?
Yes.
It was 10 pages.
10 page. I'm sorry, 805 pages, only 10 pages of it. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about how him returning was going to be a second grief of ages. I'm sorry, the grief of ages sounds like it's supposed to be about 50 years, maybe 100 years, maybe 120. And this quote-unquote second grief of ages was only one night long. So I didn't like that, because we geared up all book for his returning for this big ultimate battle. And then the battle just seemed really rushed. People kept dropping the sword. This like all-powerful sword. They kept dropping it. I'm sorry, you're in a battle for literally your whole entire civilization.
Yeah.
You keep dropping the sword, and it somehow still ends up in your favor in only 10 pages. And it like that, we didn't get as much lore in the East, and we didn't see as much of the East. We saw Tane leaving the East, and that was pretty much it. We didn't get a whole lot in the background of Tane either, if you really think about it, because you understood who she was in that moment. You didn't get a lot of it in like anywhere else, though. A dragon and her dragon rider and this special jewel to take down the Nameless one. We're getting all this information from the West, and there's none of it in the East. Like, even though they intentionally split those two up in the past, like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
There just wasn't enough payoff on things that spent so time on the build-up. Specifically the end. The 10 pages to end the Nameless one, I think, was a bit ridiculous for having 800 pages prior. That so much happened, but it feels like nothing happened at the same time. Like, if I were to think through this book, and I was paying attention, I just feel like nothing happened. The downfalls of high fantasy is that there is so much stuff that you have to set up that doesn't matter in the long run. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to take a book like this that is so high fantasy and try to make the little stuff matter as much as the big stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes you gotta have to kind of focus in and just be like, this is what matters. The ending itself felt very lifeless. There was no consequences. There was no payoff on anything. Everyone got a happy ending. It felt very convenient about everything. The stone just happened to be in her side. The sword just got brought to the battle. There was the trees, but everything just felt too convenient.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was just because she was running out of time, because the beginning is so slow. The biggest thing is, like, the orange tree. With it being literally the title, the Priory of the Orange Tree, we really didn't get much. And again, it's a secret society. It's like the whole point. But when you get one of the new prioress of the Orange Tree, we should have more understanding, especially when that's when the magic comes from. The Orange Tree is what provides magic. So we should have more information about this.
There was so much lore that I'm even struggling, as you're saying that, to remember. Did they even mention where the orange tree came from?
So there's 3 trees. There's the mulberry tree, the hawthorn tree, and the orange tree. The orange tree was consumed by Cleonon and proved to help with the defeat of the Nameless one. She was the first blood of the orange tree. Tanya's ancestor was the first blood of the mulberry tree, and Columba, which is the evil witch.
So Sabran was the blood of the hawthorn tree.
Hawthorn tree. It says all trees are connected to the womb of fire, the original source of Scion, which is magic, through their roots. They infuse the whole tree with the magic, granting it plenty of magical properties. Its leaves and branches are able to block out fire, especially that of worms. Its flower can be used to cure the draconic plague, and the fruit is used to create deadly poisons and obviously magic. So it just says that it's connected to the womb of fire, so I'm guessing it's probably branched out.
We should know more.
Yeah. In the long run, there was just, the payoff was just not where it needed it to be. The story itself, with the stones and the sword, it's such a strong story, but the plot needed to be more center focused on it. Mm-hmm. And again, it's really hard to complain when you have a high fantasy, because the whole point of a high fantasy is supposed to be confusing, and it's supposed to take you a second to learn. That's the whole fun of it, is like learning as you go. That's why I love high fantasy, because I love figuring out the puzzle. But when you don't give me all the pieces, and I'm left to make like my own world, that's not really fun, because I'm here to enjoy this one. Another thing is like the elixir of life. Jenart spent his entire life trying to make it. Niclays picked up after him and also spent his entire life trying to, well, maybe not his entire life, but after Jenart died, trying to complete his mission. And they get to the tree and it's gone. And he doesn't
down.
It's cut down.
Who cut it down?
Galentine Day.
Did he? Even trying to remember that, I don't even remember that, because I remember thinking like that on the mulberry tree, they had read it because it was cut down. It turned out that whoever had the fruit, who was the first to eat of the fruit, is the one who got the elixir of life,
which is the bronze witch. Yeah.
Yes, we're quite exactly who.
That might be a little bit of a user error.
Okay, but again, there's just so much there is so much information that like it's easy for what feels like should be important stuff to still get lost, because you're emphasizing too much on the people around it. Then I guess these all powerful trees that that's giving magic, life, bringing people back from the dead.
Day of Fallen Night will definitely have more details on that. It's set 500 years prior.
Oh, so interesting. So yeah, the Nameless one was bound for 1,000 years. So if it's 500 years into the past.
For the elixir of life, though, going back, I respect there not being a happy ending in that. Like, he did all of this, and now he's like, well, I just want to die because I did all of this for Jennar, and none of it was. With the mixture of it, with it being on a wild goose chase with like the stones and stuff, it was just like too much all at once without structure. If there was more structure, I think it could have worked. Mm-hmm. But that's it. Like, that was like my biggest thing, which unfortunately is such a huge thing that does affect my overall perspective on the book. I do like the book, and I did like the book, but... So, who would you say in this one is your favorite character?
I did like seeing Tanya, because I really did like seeing her grapple with like these regrets and these like emotions that you kind of don't see warriors to kind of go through. So I really did like that. I really wish they didn't kill Kit off at the beginning of the book, though, because I thought that the book needed a lot more comedic relief than what it got, because it was just so serious all the time. Iad brought a little bit of comedic relief too, but she was also very serious a good portion of the time. I loved Kit, because Kit took things seriously, but tried to bring a lot of levity to the serious situation. More screen time and kill them off maybe later. It would have brought so much more character development to Law.
I really like Sabran. I think she the perfect person for this position, if that makes sense.
Yes.
She always just wanted a ray of hope. She just wanted a good outlook, but she wanted a realistic response. With her ladies in waiting, they always gave her a response that she wanted but not needed, where Iad gave her a response that she needed, not wanted. Somebody who is so off-putted with their history. So she has a very, in her kingdom, in her storyline, she has a very important role in it. And she pushed against it so much. Like, she didn't want it. She understood her reasoning of why she was queen, why she was a person, and she was angry with that. And it was kind of refreshing because a lot of people take it as, like, bragging rights. Of like, oh, I'm going to defeat the Nameless one. I'm happy to give my womb to the next one. And you see her be really resentful for all of that. And she's also a very complex character. It says in there that the Baratheon family line is hounded by what they called mind fog, which was depression. So Sabran had depression. So she was shadow hours. Her shadow hours. Her shadows, and she always slept with like a candle on. So I think these like little details that you learn from Iad about Sabran, because Sabran's not a main character. She's a side character. My favorite, though, is I liked Nicholas.
Really?
I did. I liked his bitterness. I liked his flaws.
You always did love a good angsty character.
I do love a good angsty character. I like that he had a very dense history because he's older. He's like 60s. So I love that he had a dense history. He was very complex. He was selfish and flawed. And the fact that he worked all of these years for nothing. He did all of this in the name of somebody that he loved and didn't get recognition. He had the most character development. Going from where he was at the beginning to where he ended up, the journey that he went through changed him within himself. Either it woke something up or it put something to sleep. The frustrating thing is that he didn't really get a conclusion. I don't know. I felt like he was incomplete in his story, and I think that was kind of like the purpose of him. Was that he's supposed to feel incomplete because he didn't get to make the elixir fight. He didn't get to carry on Jennard's story.
Or he didn't even get to be, like, a grandfather to True.
Exactly. And then him being like, I want to be with Jan, I want to be with Jan. And then him at the final being like, no, I want to live, I want to create, I want to keep going.
Like, he's mad with this epiphany, and he was like, I'm finally to this, like, next level. I wasn't in agreement initially, but I can see what you mean now. The witch was, like, showed him Jannar, and you thought that he was cooked, and that he was like, well, I'm gonna do whatever I can to bring him back, but he even says, I think in the beginning I would, but now I can't. She, like, tarnished his memory, I mean, when you say it like that, it makes sense, like, the character development stuff. Still don't like him, but I think I always liked a larger-than-life character with a humanistic quality, so...
Yeah, I like him because of his complexity.
Yeah.
Not that he's a good person, because he's not. It's very much for the Game series. My favorite character is forever and always Andrew. Andrew is not a good person. He is an awful person, and he does very bad things, but he's so complex. He's such a well-thought-out character, and so detailed. That's what makes me like him, and what makes him redeemable in my eyes. But I think Nicholas is definitely the most thought-out character.
I can respect it.
Alright, so we're going to take a second here to shout out the Patreon subscribers. So a huge shout out.
Huge shout out to Nick W., Bree P., Ashley A., Tim O., Janice P., Patrick C., Emily P., Mike T., Tracy H., Stephanie A., Kim L., Sean A., Lori, Jean C., Hunter H., Anastasia R., and Lulu.
Dude, I think I was like going 2 times speed listening to you read those names.
Oh, I'm sorry. Should I go a little bit slower?
It's fine.
Sorry, guys. Slow me down to like 0.5. You'll be able to hear the names.
Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast. It means the world to me. I enjoy doing this, so it's pretty cool that a couple people are listening to it. If you guys want to be part of the Patreon shout out, head over to Patreon and subscribe.
Hi, Day. Can I also mention real quick too about the ending?
Yeah.
So Tane goes to figure out her lineage, like actually discover her lineage at the very end, and her last chapter it says she fell asleep and her side soaked with blood, and then it just ends.
Yeah, I think she died.
But seriously, because there's nothing in there that it says that she fell asleep on her side, and then her side soaked with blood. what does that mean? What happened? Everyone else, Sabran and Iad and Loth, are talking about, like, their future. And even Niclay's talked about, like, future of, like, not knowing what's to come, like, what to do next. Tane passes out.
I interpreted it as that she put the stone back in, because we never find out what happens with everything. That's the thing with the ending. I don't understand why the ending ended it the way it did. We got 10 pages of the battle, which was not very detailed. We only saw one point of view for it, which was frustrating. I would have liked to see it jump between each person. Which we get like an epilogue of everybody, and we don't get any information. I want to know how the world is affected by this. I want to know what everyone thinks about the Nameless One being gone. I want to see how the structure of the world changes. Like, are they going to overthrow Sabran because she's not important anymore? What's the world structure now?
Sabran even said, like, the Barathnet line has fulfilled its promise. The Nameless One is bound now. They said that the sword was supposed to kill him. The sword wasn't enough to kill him. It was just enough to weaken him. A new ruler has to rule because now the Barathnet line has just, like, fulfilled its promise. And that was a good, clever way out that they alluded to. Like, that's what the future would look like. But I agree, like, I want to see that as well. I would like to see how, even if we got, like, maybe 10 years down the line, okay, are they going to rewrite history then, type of deal? Like, what are they going to put for generations to come, because they now realize the truth of what happened before?
They're going to fix the history books. They were all written wrong.
Yes. Are they going to blaze forward and be like, we were lied to, this is how we should move forward?
Anyways, I will say I did like the book. Like, it was a decent read. It was just, there's a lot of loopholes. So who would you say is your favorite relationship?
Iad and Sabran, because I like the fact that they started off from, like, not even being in the same circle or the same, like, level of society, then turns around at the end of the book and goes, I would spend 50 years alone to have 1 year with you.
Yeah.
Or one night with you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I love their relationship and where it progresses, and it changes into one of mutual respect, because there's, you know, when Iad comes back to, like, from near death, Sabran is like, damn you, or like, how many times have we damned each other now? And Iad is like, not nearly enough.
Yeah.
You know, because they've both been saving each other for so long, that they respect each other enough to fight over things that matter to them, still love each other very much, and to go through literally hell and back for each other.
No, I definitely agree. I think they're definitely a star couple. I said that my favorite was Iad, Sabran, and Loth. All three of them together.
Oh, like what they mean to each other?
Yeah, like very much besties vibes.
Yeah.
I could see Loth and Iad have a child, but Sabran and Iad raise it.
I can kind of see it with... Oh, did you say Sabran and Loth? Or Iad and Loth?
Well, Sabran can't have kids. So,
oh, that's right. Oh, wow. I forgot about... Oh, my God. How did I forget about that?
Yeah, that was like the whole point.
I know.
She can't have another kid.
I thought about it. I was going to say it would make more sense for Sabran and Loth to have a child, but then... Forgive me. Yeah. I know. I read the book. I promise.
You get this complex lore wrong, bro. So I really liked them, because I thought they had a good... Like, when he came back on the boat, right before the fight, and they all hugged each other, like, in a big circle, it was really cute. And, like, even when Loth was out on his travels, he thought of them. He was like, I hope, especially when Iad was, for all he knew, still in a coma. And he was like, oh, I hope my girl's alright. And I like that Iad and Loth, when they had parties, Loth would go to Sabran, and then he would go and dance with Iad. So I just really liked all three of them together.
Every couple needs a third wheel. He makes a good third wheel.
Yeah.
And he seems very happy to be a part of it, too. Like,
yeah, he's just happy to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You ready to play a game?
I'm ready to play a game.
Alright. So I have some words here for you. So as typical to high fantasy, they make up a lot of their own words. So you are going to write down the definition for each of these words. For Patreon, we'll leave the audio going so you can listen to Shelby's internal monologues. But for the podcast, we'll skip to the end when Shelby's ready. Alright, Shelby, what do we got?
First word, buckler. I put a pirate who cleans the decks.
Okay, yeah, that's a good guess. It's not correct, but it's a good guess. It's a small part of the shield.
Yeah, no, would have never have gotten that. I got next word, quarrel. I put a fight.
Yeah, you would think so, right? It's a jellyfish.
What? Okay, Isn't jerkin like a type of weapon of some sort?
A sleeveless jacket.
Okay, cup shot. I said a congratulatory phrase for a good shot.
It means drunk.
Yeah, no. Oh, no.
I think out of all of them, that one probably makes the most sense.
I don't...
Are you cup shot right now, bro?
Oh, or I can also say, hey, cup shot and good shot. Like...
That's true.
Dipsaz? Someone who's stupid?
It's venom from a snake.
Yep, nope, would have never guessed that. Barding? I put, like, a poet barding.
Oh,
like,
okay. Horse armor. I don't think you're gonna get anything. You might get one, actually.
I said meerswine? A bad person.
It's a dolphin.
I'm so...
It's like a mare swine. I guess, like, a mare is, like, a mer. Swine is, like, a pig.
A merpig?
A merpig, maybe. Which is, like, a dolphin.
A shawm? A scheme. Like a plan, a plot.
Plan. It is an instrument.
I think you're making this up now. And then last, dowry, a payment made for, like, marriage. Like,
yes.
I got one right!
Yay.
And I learned that in Sunday school. Dowry.
I put that one in there specifically so you could get one right.
Oh, thanks. You're so kind.
Yay!
Yay me!
A good time. So, is there anything that you would have changed, would have done differently if you were writing this book, and is strictly your own opinion? I can go first if you want to.
3 major things. 1, we've gotten more lore out of the East to be able to better understand what's going on there. 2, would have made sure that the big finale battle expand on the fight and maybe actually make it, like, even if it wasn't 50 years, make it more than just one night skirmish and longer than 10 pages. And then lastly, I think that I would have changed someone's ending, either given someone like a heroic, gut-wrenching, beautiful, tears, sobbing type of death, or we expanded just on the ending, how has the future changed from what it has been in the past now that the Nameless one is either permanently bound or maybe not bound, or maybe they find out later that, like, oh, we just rebound them for another 1,000 years. What does that look like? And also kind of figure out a little bit more, like, what happens to Tane. Like, I'm very confused by that ending, because she was such a, like, she's one of the 4 main characters, and everyone else gets, like, an idea of what the future could look like, and instead she just passes out.
We definitely should have gotten a character death, especially if we're not coming back to this world, then there's no point of keeping them. And I honestly think Loth probably should have been the one, because that would have hurt. And it would have hurt Sabron. And yeah, Loth dying would have been good. Niclay's poetic for him to die, very Achilles and Patroclus, to be back with his one love. Yeah, I think she has too much going on with Priory, Sabron. I could see Sabron also dying too, but I feel like with the love story, it wouldn't make sense. Tane, I feel like, didn't have enough of a structure to make sense. So to me, Loth feels like the right way to go. Mm-hmm. I agree with the battle. Definitely should have been longer than 10 pages. It also should have been a little bit past halfway in the book. It shouldn't be left to the end. Figured all of this out sooner, done it earlier, and then we would have focused more on the aftermath of it. What is affected by this? How does the world change? Does the politics change? Does economy change? You're taking a dragon out of the water is going to change. The world itself is going to change. Mm-hmm. We need to add more stakes to it, I guess. So I think the payoff and the stakes were, like, the biggest thing for me. So
yeah, I could see that.
And of course, as always, more dragons.
It seemed really weird. We got, like, 2 seconds of the Nameless one, but we got a lot more action with Firedell, who then disappears, and it's like, he needs to be hunted down, and that's all that we hear left of him. And it's like, was he really actually supposed to be the Nameless one then? But they gave him another name, or mistook him for Firedell, and so they called him, you know what I mean? Like,
that's what I said. If we had more lore, we would know that the Nameless one actually had a name. So, unfortunately, it is time for us to leave.
Womp, womp, womp.
Womp, womp. But before we do one last thing. We do the rating scale, and we do a little bit different here on the book stop. We make up our own thing. So I would give The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon 3 trips through a desert on dragonback for a nice, ripe orange out of 5. 3 out of 5.
Your dragon would not survive.
I know. She's gonna be thirsty.
She won't be thirsty.
Again, I liked it. I would not be reading it again. I would recommend it to anybody that likes high fantasy, is used to high fantasy. First time book in high fantasy, it would be definitely a lot. The story was there, just wasn't as plotted out as it needed to be. And I did like the characters. The characters definitely kept it up in rating for me. If we had really flat, bad characters, it probably would have been like a lower number. But I enjoyed reading it. I am glad to have this trophy to say that I have read this, and it's annotated, so I have proof that I read it. I mean, I could have just put these in here, but this has been on my TBR for so long. So it's nice to actually have it finally done, even though I was very intimidated by this book. I'm glad that I also took my time reading it.
Yeah, because I think we were talking about Memorial Day weekend. We were trying to, like, start reading it.
Yeah, I started it, like, a month or two ago, so I really took my time reading it, and I think that helped a lot, kind of digest everything. So.
Yeah. I think I would do 3 Ships Through the Abyss. I think it is the ending, both with the fight and with the lack of understanding.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Book Stop.
Glad to be here anytime. Unfortunately, Book Talk has really led me astray, and I'm, like, a little bummed that this, like, I couldn't give it the same amount of love that everyone else seemed to have, like, loved it, but I'm glad that I got it done. I'm usually, like, a lot more action, normal fantasy versus high fantasy, so, and I've never read high fantasy before, so I'm glad that I read it, for sure, and be, like, able to challenge myself, because, like you said, it wasn't a bad book, it just also wasn't giving the same amount of depth that you were kind of hoping for. Yeah. It was really lacking in things that you felt that it mattered. That's a bummer, but I'm glad that I was able to push myself to be able to get to this point, because I didn't think I'd ever actually read it. I just have it on my TBR for a really long time. It has me thinking about it enough to be like, I kind of got to know more.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have Among the Burning Flowers, which comes out at the end of the year, and that is another prequel from this, but it's after A Day of Falling Night. It's about that city that burned with the lavender fields, and that one's only like 300 pages, so it's to her it's like a novella, real small. So well, thank you for coming on, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at the Bookstop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.